We begin with you to disassemble the last service, the general. This service will be responsible for 1. Documentation. 2. Authorization system. 3. Features to simplify development. And so let's traditionally build our service. Let's go to the Docker Compose, write the config and copy the host. Let's go to the env and set it up. Copy to main. Let's go to the service and open the package.json. Let's write down our common dependency block, bcryptjs. John Web Token. MD5. All this for creating hash keys and passwords for an advanced authorization system. Swagger UI Express, for creating documentation. Let's go to the console and install npm. Now let's build the service. Let's check in the Docker and browser interface. Well, everything is ready for development. Let's open Root Express. Let's look at the initialization of the gateway. For comfortable development, we will create a console program that will update npm in all services at once. We delegate the request to our microservice general. Let's open root micromk. We see the initialization of our path/system/npm/update, which loads the controller, npm update. Let's open this controller. Let's go to General Service, Module, Systems, Controller, npm update. Validation of fields, we see there is one field, a script. Let's open validation. As we can see, the script field can have one of several values. 1 common update. 2 PM2 flush. 3 PM2 restart. We describe all these values in package.json. Let's look at them. Open the package.json. In the scripts block, we see these console tasks that start processes. We can specify any console processes in a similar way and run when we need it. Let's go back to the controller. In lock run of logic. We can see the launch of the RPC protocol for each service, specifying the npm update parameter and the script name. Each service has a RPC handler named npm update. Let's take a look at it. Let's go to root micromk. Let's watch on init action. See the call to our npm update passing the action. Let's open the base root and look at the run action call. It is very simple. It checks for the secret key, which is in the global file. And starts the action. Let's move on to the common action. One, we give the answer to the rabbit. 2, write a log. 3, clear the console cache. 4, call the script we passed to execute. Pay attention to the timeout. This is necessary in order not to overload the processor with simultaneous calls. Let's check in practice how it works. Let's open the Postman client and create a new request. Let's introduce a method. URL. Let's add a script parameter. Please note that we are using the put method, so we need to add a parameter to the query. We start the request. See that everything is fine, npm sent for update. Let's open the admin and make sure that the script worked and a log entry was made. Great, now we have learned how to work with the console simultaneously in all services, which is very convenient for development. Let's go to base root. Look at the Swagger root. Let's define the path, it will be /docs. Next come the three middlewares. 1. Serve, this is the core of Swagger. 2. Controller. 3. Documentation rule. Let's look at the controller. Let's open the general module. Swagger. Controller. As you can see, a very simple class, which checks two parameters for the input, username, password. If everything is okay, then we continue further, calling the next callback. Let's go back to base root. Let's look at the third midlover. Our documentation setup starts with a JSON file, Swagger.json. Go to this file. We can see the main object that collects the documentation. Also two modules that are connected, 1. Swagger helpers. 2. Swagger paths. Let's move on to Swagger helpers. This model of helpers, additional information that will be necessary for describing the documentation can be stored here. For example, we will describe all the servers and the name of the services that are in our architecture. Now consider the main documentation description file for each service, Swagger paths. Let's go to the file. We can see the connections of each service. Let's move on and see how we describe the rules for each service. Open the directory doc, general, index. Let's pay attention to the main objects. 1. URL. 2. Method. 3. Response. 4. Parameter. First we describe the URL where we store the logic. Now let's turn our attention to the RPC protocol. Swagger does not know about such a protocol and we will have to replace it with any other method that we will not use, patch. You need to understand that we will use the name patch instead of RPC. Let's go to the browser and see how the documentation works. As a homework, try to collect your documentation rules for other URLs. See you in the next lessons.